Let's see what happens, shall we?
Yeah, let's.
Let's see, is the health... it's starting to stream.
It started very quick as well.
Yeah, that's weird. And there we are.
Ding!
How about that? That was record time getting logged into YouTube, wasn't it?
Yeah, super fast.
Yeah, really, really good. Cool, man. That's awesome. Let me just bring up the chat here.
Just got to turn down the volume of the stream, otherwise I will
Or
have
else,
my
yeah, so
hit.
you'll drive me crazy. Hey, Mike. How are you, Mike? Mike is here from Western Massachusetts.
Oh, fastest guns in the West.
Fastest guns. That was about 30 seconds. That's about the record. Yep. About 30 seconds, right? Takes about 30 seconds. Tony, how are you? Tony's here. Good to see you. Welcome for, thanks for showing up. MJN Studios is here. Hello, how are you? He says, hello, gentlemen. How dare you?
Hey.
Hopefully the volume is good. Robert Booth is here. Hello, Robert. How are you? Let us know how the volume is. I think it should be okay. Oh, I don't know. Welcome again to another episode of That Plug-In Show. And I'm one of your hosts. You know who I am from Home Recording Made Easy and LearningToMix.com. And you know my good buddy Johnny Lipsham from lipshamstudios.uk, Johnny Scotland, as I call him. And our good buddy Johnny Geib is not with us tonight because he is off dealing with some personal issues. He's fine, but he's tied up at the moment.
He is.
So we'll be filling in for him, and he will be back next month, I'm sure, because I know he's disappointed that he's had to miss the show. But that's okay, because then we'll let him do, next time he comes back, he could do 2 plugins, and you and I we'll do one together. We'll give him extra time the next time he shows up. So we got Richie here. Richie, how are you? Drummer Man, how are you, Drummer Man? Mike is here. Sounds good. We got everybody here in the house. We got about 9, 10, 11 people here. That's really cool. So for you watching in the archive, if you're not watching this live, if you don't know what the hell we're doing here, well, we call this That Plug-In Show, where every month we get together and we just kind of show you and introduce you to a new plugin that we may have. Some of it could be stock plugins, some of it could be third-party plugins, and then more importantly, how we kind of use them to try to expose you guys to some new things, right, Johnny? And most of the stuff that we show, you could go out and demo if you don't have them, probably for free. Most manufacturers will let you demo their stuff for almost nothing. And if it's a stock plugin and you have the same DAW that we're using, well, even better. So we try to, every month, kind of shake it up a little bit to show you something a little bit different that maybe isn't the same thing that we talk about a lot in all the other live stream broadcasts that we talk about, which, by the way, we do a monthly live stream once a month towards the end of the month where we just kind of hang out together, talk, and do some Studio One demonstrations and mixing technique stuff. And then we also do interactive mixing, which is coming up if it's not next week, the week after. Check the Facebook page. It'll be there. But that's where we all get together and we mix a song together, meaning you in the chat actually mix the song. We just kind of drive the DAW, right, Johnny?
Yep.
And then we also do That Plug-In Show, which is what we're doing here. So we're on 3 times a month. It's almost like a regular talk show.
It pretty much is.
So what's going on, Johnny? Anything good? Anything we want to talk to the people about before we jump in and get started? We got 11 or 12 people now here at this point.
It's been a good day for me today. I've not been very well over the course of the last couple of weeks, and it's not been too great. But I was sacked out on the sofa this afternoon, and just so I could get some energy up, just to be with you guys.
Well, that's very good. I'm glad you're feeling better, or hopefully you're feeling better.
Well, I'll be, I'm doing this show, and then straight after this, come over to my YouTube channel, and I'm sitting in for Johnny Geib tonight. So it'll be Home Studio Trainer Q&A show with me over at my channel.
Right. So go over to Johnny Lipsham's YouTube channel where he'll be kind of filling in for Johnny Geib, who obviously isn't here, on the Home Studio Trainer, which I guess you'll just take a bunch of questions and talk about whatever people want to ask you about, right, Johnny?
Pretty much.
That'll be cool.
And then I'll be going to bed.
and then you'll be going to bed. So that's cool. I'm glad you're feeling better. Everyone go check out Johnny's show afterwards, that's for sure, and participate there. So this time out, do you want to go first this time around, Johnny?
Yeah, I could do.
Yeah, why don't you?
Yeah.
So why don't you go first and bring up your Studio One, and you can tell the good folks what you're gonna show this week, and then I'll probably have to full screen it or whatever. But if you share your screen and full screen it, it should look perfect on the thing, and it does, except you got me right in the middle. Okay, yeah, get me out of there. Okay, good. So yeah, we can see you full screen. Guys and gals in the chat, let us know how the audio quality is. I know you hear our voice, but maybe Johnny, before you start demonstrating whatever that cool looking plugin is, you could do us a little sound sample and make sure that the Studio One volume is good for all the people in the chat room, and if not, I can make an adjustment on my side.
That's a good point. I should maybe drop this down a little bit, because I've definitely had it where on previous live streams I've done demos and it's been way too loud. So, all right, let's just pick a note. And hopefully that's not too loud in people's ears.
I don't think so. It seemed, if anything, was a little quiet, but let the chat tell us. There's probably a little bit of a delay. Johnny's little keyboard demo there. Let us know. And I'll watch the chat, Johnny, so as you're demonstrating, if things are not... Ooh, there you go. If things are too loud or not loud enough, I'll try to make an adjustment over here.
Cool.
Cool. Just take it away.
All right. Well, you may have got a small smidge of a hint. Actually, I have the stream up too loud in my ears.
Yeah,
so
turn those down. I know this is part of the technical stuff. We got to have things running on multiple platforms, and therefore, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You don't want to see any of that. There we go.
We're back.
All right.
All right.
I fixed that. Sorry about that, folks. This is the thing when you've only got one screen. This is what I have to do. So we are going to have a look at the relatively brand new Presonus Symphonic Orchestra, which is an add-on that you can get from the Presonus shop for a reasonable chunk of change. And what you get is you get pretty much every section of the orchestra with articulations and all sorts. So I figure we could go and take a dive in and have a look at each section of the orchestra and have a look at some of the sounds that you get and some of the articulations that come with it as well. If you're interested in adding orchestral textures to your songs, or you're wanting to do soundtrack work for a film of any kind, I do soundtrack work for student films. Edinburgh in Scotland has a thriving student film community, and I've kind of got myself immersed in among those folks, and so I write a little bit of music for them for their end of year projects. So this was perfect for me when I heard that it came out. So it runs through the Presence XT in Studio One 3.
Now there's Presence, Johnny, for the people that have maybe a Studio One Artist. Do they get Presence with Studio One Artist? I don't know, because I don't have Studio One Artist anymore, but do they get that plugin?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
But I think if Skip Jones is here, he might be able to correct us. But I think you may have to. You may not be able to get the orchestra as an add-on.
Oh, okay, because it's right. And how much was the orchestra pack for this? Do you know?
I think it was just under £100, which which is I don't know what that is in dollars. Last time I checked,
it's probably somewhere between $90 and $110 US.
Yeah, I was going to say we're almost at parity now. It's I think it's 127 to the pound, I think, at the moment.
Okay, all right, so not too bad. Okay, so they have Presence as the plugin as a VST, and if they want to, they buy this as an add-on pack. Yeah,
they buy it as an add-on pack, and it connects straight to your Presence XT, and you basically get all of them as presets in this list here.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the chat's saying $99.95 US. So I was almost right on. Okay, so about $100.
Yeah, which is pretty much what it is in pounds. That's frightening.
Are you full screen, Johnny? The chat's saying that you could still see me a little bit on the screen, but I am not on my screen. You are full screen. Let me just double check that. Now you're not full screen, and now you should be full screen. Okay, you're full screen on my side, so I'm not sure. You sure you're completely full screen on your end, Johnny? It looks okay in my window.
Yeah,
I don't
a
know.
little.
Mike is saying, could Johnny's screen be a little full screen? Hate to be a pest. And Mike, it is full screen on our side.
Yeah,
I don't know how everyone else is seeing it.
yeah,
Yeah, MGM Studios is saying not here. I don't know if that means, does it look
yeah.
okay? I mean, we're full screen as full screen can be. And I'm looking at the preview window, and you should just see Studio One, and you should see Johnny and myself in the bottom
Oh,
right-hand corner.
think I get it. I think I think what's happening, Dave, is I'm looking at the stream just now, and I think you are still on your main camera where you have us side by side.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
And that's what it. Oh, okay. Hold on. Well, my fault. Hey, what the hell? What do you guys want? You want everything? Okay, there we go. Hey, man, I didn't tell you. I'm a mixing engineer. I'm not a camera operator. You're lucky that I'm even able to get any of this stuff on the screen. Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. As they're tuning out, like, okay, these guys don't know what they're doing. Now it should be completely full screen. I'm in the, okay, I know what to do. Hold on. I know exactly what to do to get this right. Okay, hold on. Come on, my mouse. Get my mouse where it's supposed to go. And then I want to drag Johnny back here. And I'm going to put you right on top over here where I am. And that's that. Okay, so now it should look okay. Maybe. It'll take a second because there's a delay.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta love the YouTube delay.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
But hey, it's free.
It's free.
Exactly.
You can't complain when it's free. Or you can complain, but nobody will listen. Okay, it should be good. Everyone says it looks all good now. Sorry, folks.
Okay,
Sorry,
great.
Johnny.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that's all right. I'll plow on. So yeah, so you get all of the sections of the orchestra in your presets drop-down list here.
Mm-hmm.
So these are your main presets that come with Presence up to here. And then when it says PSO, that stands for the Presonus Symphonic Orchestra. So you get classic orchestra, you get a contemporary strings pack as well.
Okay.
So at the moment I have the big string section open, which gives you a beautiful, big, fat, rich string section, which we're going to look at in just a second, with pizzicato, staccato, sustain, and tremolo articulations. And then you get just cellos, just violas, and just violins, all in this strings package. The general orchestra package has your brass, it has choir, percussion, strings, woodwind, and then a single articulation folder as well. So you've got single instruments here. So you've got basses, you've got bassoons, cello, clarinets, bass clarinet, contrabassoon. You've got like a whole slew of different single articulations that you can play about. There are some loops that come with the pack as well, which I've not even touched as yet, but they are pretty good. I could probably do an entire plug-in show just on that all on its own because they're great fun. So yeah, you can use these in just about every style of music. It doesn't have to be classical, particularly, or even kind of traditionally romantic era orchestral music. You can use this in just about any context. You can put this on a 70s disco track if you wanted to, and it would sound awesome. So the one I have open just at the minute is the big strings section sustain, which just sounds really rich and lovely. Hopefully this is going to come through down Skype and into YouTube nicely and not all garbled. So hopefully this will work. Let's see. I'll just play a little bit.
Sure. that sounds pretty nice.
And I just totally made that up. Uh, but yeah, it sounds absolutely gorgeous, that big strings section. So that would work really nice if you're wanting to just like add like a strings bed to a section, or even throughout a whole song would work lovely. Um, so that's the big strings. You do get staccato as well. Now these are all pretty big in terms of sample size. Like this one's 330 megabytes.
So when you download this, Johnny, how big is the pack? I mean, do you run it on your internal hard drive? Is it something that
I am at the moment just running it off my internal hard drive. You can save it to another place. You could save it to an external hard drive and just stream it from there.
Gotcha.
I mean, you may find that it works out better for you that way, that you get cleaner and faster stream into Studio One that way. I haven't as yet had any issues with it, but I would imagine that if I start stacking up different sections of the orchestra, it might bog down my computer. So
gotcha.
I'll see how that goes and I'll report back. And so this is the staccato, which is, oh, that's a little bit on the loud side. But staccato by name, staccato by nature. Staccato, if you're not at all into music theory whatsoever, staccato basically means short with attack, which is what you get there. Very effective. Tremolo's pretty good. If you want to create tension, sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds great. Even over, like you said, through Skype, through YouTube, and it still sounds good. So I got to imagine it sounds even better sitting in the room.
Yeah, it sounds great in my ears, I tell you.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
And then you get the same articulations for individual sections within the strings. So you get your basses, your cellos, your violins, and your violas, and they just sound awesome. Plus, you also get these with key switches. So if I was to take the big, which is what KS stands for, key switch. So if I take the big string section and,
Loading up on you?
It looks like it's refusing to load up on me. 0 bytes.
Well, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Well, look at that. I mean, look how big that is.
Yeah, look at the size of that.
Yeah.
And that would be because of all the key switches.
Sure.
They've thought of everything. So all the key switches are down here in this area of the keyboard that's blacked out, which is like from C0 to A0 is where all the key switches are. So if I was to, that's just like your regular sustain. Let's see. So this one's a trill. Which could be really useful again for kind of tensions. Let's see what we've got. Pizzicato. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, certainly does.
Let's do one more. What haven't I done that's quite good? So you get different trills. The one I demoed there was a whole tone trill, which is what the WT stands for there.
Oh, okay.
And this one is a semitone, I think. Which sounds weird when you do it as a chord.
Yeah, right.
So you got all of those, and that's just strings. I mean, I could go bananas.
I mean, you got a massive amount of sounds there for $100. I mean, that's not bad. So if you need orchestra stuff, I mean, you got everything you need right in that one add-on pack, right? I mean,
yeah. Plus, you have a choir as well. The choir sounds. You've got also different vowel sounds.
Yeah.
Which sounds really, really. These sound really, really cool. Let's start simple with R because that's what everybody does when they go to the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do R in 6-part jazz harmony. I defy any human being to be able to sing this note.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, they sound great.
So the choir is really good, and then you've got like all a whole bunch of percussion mapping as well, which I've barely touched to be honest. But I tell you, the timpani sound amazing, and they've mapped out timpani rolls as well, so you don't have to drill a hole in your keyboard trying to do a timpani roll, which ends up sounding ludicrously bad because your keyboard can't trigger fast enough.
Right, right, right.
So they've mapped all of that out. I'll just show that real quick. Let's see if I can find it. Let's close the choir, percussion, timpani and drums, timpani, which is not a very big pack, but so there's your timpani rolls.
Oh yeah, you could never do that manually. You would never get that smooth.
And you can do them real soft as well, just by pressing soft.
Oh wow. Okay, so it obviously senses the sensitivity of the keys.
Yes.
That's really cool. Yeah, that sounds really good, man.
So they are epic. I'm really looking forward to. I've had I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but I've had an orchestra work on the go for a number of years, and I've just been like doing a bit whenever I get a moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 3-movement work for full orchestra and jazz quartet. And I would really love it if I could get the Metropole Orchestra of Denmark to play it with a jazz quartet.
Yeah.
Because they are epic. I saw the Metropole Orchestra with Snarky Puppy, and they were just outstanding. They were incredible, and the arrangements were out of this world. Jules Buckley is the conductor, and he does a lot of the arrangements as well. So I would dearly love to be able to write have this scored out and written for them to play. But yeah, so this is kind of like giving me a lot of, all of a sudden writing for orchestra is not quite so remote anymore. It's not just sounds in my head.
Right, right.
It's it's very, I can get my hands on a set of timpani now. So
that's fantastic. So again, that's for anyone that has Studio One Pro or Artist, doesn't matter. But if you have the Artist, you're not clear, Johnny, whether you can just buy this as an add-on pack because it's a Presonus pack, or do you have to buy, because it's not a third-party plugin, so it should work with the Artist version. You just have to buy the pack, right? Because it's a sound sample pack is really what it is.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure you can, but as I say, I don't have Artists, so I don't know that particular experience 100%.
I would be imagining you can because it's a Presonus pack.
Yeah.
It's not a third-party plugin, so I would think you just buy the pack, and it's about $99 US, and you could download it right to your thing. And you said it also comes with a batch of loops as well.
It does.
Okay, but you don't have that loaded in here, right? You just have the sounds.
I do. I do have them in. I basically haven't actually used them yet.
Haven't used them. Okay, so it comes with a bunch of loops as well as the sounds, which is cool.
There's these all down here. Let's try this one. And it comes all with different sections.
Oh wow! Okay, so you could piece a song together pretty quick.
Yeah, and then they've done mixes of each of the sections. If I just play it like this. So it's like
Yeah, that also can be great. The loops could be great for people who create like video content and need some just
Yep.
backdrop music. You know, you don't have to create it from scratch. You could just grab these loops and slap something together pretty quickly, and you have some nice, some nice music for your video content, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they're all in a very wide range of styles. So I mean, you've got that kind of like big band jazz kind of style, but you've got this one, for example, which is a little bit more sort of film scoring.
Yeah, I was just thinking that if you're doing television work or film work, this is great.
Yep.
I mean that you got it looks like what looks to be hundreds of loops, if not more. MJN Studios in the chat says yes. Presonus website says it is compatible with
There we go.
Prime, Artist, and Professional. Thanks for looking that up. That's what we figured, but thank you for double checking. Anyone else in the chat have any questions for Johnny on this? It'll all go ahead and ask in the chat now. I'll kind of go ahead and just kind of keep my eye on it and see if there's any questions. But yeah, that looks fantastic, man. That's a really nice thing to have. If you need that kind of style of sounds and music and loops, I mean, that sounds great.
I mean, these would work great if you're if you'd like doing a podcast and you need kind of like interlude music.
Right.
You are just absolutely sorted, and they're really, really, really high quality. You know, you're paying $100 to get a full orchestra, which is samples of a real actual orchestra.
Right.
I believe it's the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, but don't hold me to that. I know that there's one that is the Abbey Road session orchestra, which Presonus don't make, but there is one out there that is actually really outstanding. But it's about $400 more expensive. But it was all recorded by Abbey Road session orchestral musicians and recorded in Studio 2.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The chat's saying that this has more than 14 gigabytes of samples with 300 instrument presets. That's what you're showing here. So, yeah, 14 gigs of samples. That's a lot of space. So, be careful if you have an older computer or a hard drive that's short on space. You may want to drop this on a USB kind of a drive or something like that, and it'll run a lot more, efficiently for you.
It does take a while to download.
Yeah, I would imagine so, and it depends on your internet connection certainly. But yeah, you got to download it. But even so, still $100 is not bad considering, like you said, the competitors' stuff of the same kind of thing. I got to imagine is more money than $100.
Oh yeah, I mean the East West Vienna orchestral library is about £700.
Well,
which
there you go.
Near enough $700. So
right.
Which I have seen a friend of mine who writes film music. He works with David Arnold, if you've heard of him.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. He does cues for him for different films. So he's done some of the Lord of the Rings films and done cues for that. And he uses the East West Vienna library, and it's just a thing of beauty. But it is like, £700.
Yeah. It's 6 times what this is. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I would put this in terms of quality of sound that you get. I would say it's up there.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great. I mean, I never heard the other one, but I mean, that to me, what you played sounds realistic to me. I mean, it sounds good. I mean, it doesn't sound cheap or, some of the earlier versions of this from other companies way back in the day. You could tell when they weren't when it really wasn't real. I mean, those sound as real as it gets to my ear anyway. I don't know what people in the chat are thinking.
These kind of things, the way to test how good the samples are, how well captured the samples are, is to go and check out the woodwinds, like oboes, clarinets,
right?
Those kind of things, because if they're not well done and they're not particularly high quality, they will sound very brittle.
Okay.
a little bit plastic and cheap sounding.
Right.
But I mean, I've not demoed these here, but you know, having played with them and had a good look through the whole sample library, they're not cheap sounding at all.
Right.
Yeah, they're really, really high quality. I'm very impressed with the level of attention to detail and care that's been taken over this sample library.
Yeah, it sounds great. Let's see what the chat's saying. So saying MJN is saying studios or orchestral libraries go anywhere from 99 to $1,400. Sounds
Yep.
great, but that's a lot of money. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I mean, again, you know, for $99, if that's the bottom end and that's the quality you're getting, you wonder what is a $1,400 you know, plug-in or sound sample library sound compared to this. And
Yep.
even if it was a little bit better, is it 14 times better to justify 14 times on the cost? Probably not. So, you know, but again, it depends on what you know, what you're using. You know, what do you do? If you do a lot of scoring,
Yep.
or if you do a lot of music for TV, film, and that kind of thing, something like this can be just great. You know, it's worth
Yep.
spending the money.
I think so. I think I would recommend everybody who is here tonight to go out and get this.
Yeah, for $100, it's nice. And
Yeah.
anything else in the chat, guys? You want to ask Johnny about this particular plugin? Well, it's not really a plug. It's a sound library for the plugin, but it's still a plugin nevertheless.
Yeah, it's just within the boundaries of what we do here.
Yeah. What do you? Oh, absolutely. So, what do you guys think in the chat? How do you think? How did it sound out there? What do you think about the quality of the sounds? Again, considering it's only $100 to get 14 gigs worth of samples, that's a lot of samples.
Yeah, I mean, some of them.
That's a lot.
Some of them are huge. Some of them are really big. Some of them are really not very. Like, you know, the French horn section I thought was going to be like way big, but it's not really.
Yeah.
Everyone should know what that tune is.
Yep. That's great, man. That's excellent. Anything else in this thing you want to show us?
Oh, one thing I did forget to show actually.
Sure, go ahead.
Is how kind of on the ones that don't have key switches, you can use the mod wheel of your keyboard to control dynamics. So if I roll mine right back, and then if I just play. So I can have piano, forte.
Oh, okay, that's pretty neat.
It's very, very handy. So if you want to, you know, if you want to swell a chord, sorry, hang on, let's do this a little bit lower down.
Oh yeah, all right, yeah.
Can be pretty effective. I mean, number of articulations there are in this, it's just ridiculous, you know. They're brilliant.
The chat. That's funny.
They've just spent ages mapping all of these out and getting people to play these. Hang on.
Very cool. Well, yeah, if you have Presonus Studio One, which probably most people that are watching this, they do, go out to the Presonus store, and you can check this out and download it. Check it out. That's pretty cool. Someone wants to know, does the Studio One record the mod wheel dynamic movement? So in other words, if you're making that dynamic happen on the mod wheel, that should print to Studio One. Yes, I got to imagine it would.
Yeah. Why don't I test that?
Why don't we test that? Good question. Seeing as I don't use these types of sounds very often, I'm pretty new to these, but that's an interesting question.
All right, I'm going to come out of my French horns and I'm going to go to my strings. I'm going to go to big strings, sustain, because this is easiest to demonstrate.
Okay.
Track is armed, ready to go. Hit the record button. Hang on. Yep, make sure we're armed. Oh, it's not recording. Why is it not recording? That's very strange. No, it's not recording. Why is that?
I don't know. You have everything routed properly?
Yeah, I don't see. It's not muted. It's not turned off. Track is armed.
Hit the record enable down on the transport. Down in the center of the screen. There you go.
Strange, because I'm using my fader port, and that should have done it, but it's not. Is my record button broken on my fader port?
Uh-oh. You know what that means. You need a new fader port. Fader port 8's in your future. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I think my record button is on the blink.
Uh-oh. New gear. Sure does.
And that's the opening. What is it? The opening 4 bars of Madonna's Vogue.
Don't know. I couldn't tell you that, but if you say so, I believe you. Yeah, no, but that works obviously. So it does. It does. The answer to your question is, yes, it does. It will record the dynamic and the movement of the mod wheel. So it absolutely does that.
And you can see all the automation written in there.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really cool. Any other questions? Anything else you guys want to see or hear from this sound library? Let us know now.
Or forever hold your peace.
Or forever hold your peace. Or you could just go. I don't know. Can you demo it, or you have to buy it?
There are demos in the shop when you click on it as an item to purchase.
Uh-huh.
There are I think there are about 3 or 4 different demos there that you can just hit the play button and listen to.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, but you can't download it into your system and play around with it. You have to buy it.
Yeah, you do have to purchase it.
Okay, well, go buy it, everybody. Look, if you need this kind of stuff, it sounds great, and it sounds like from what people are saying, $99 is about the bottom end of the scale as far as price goes. It only goes up from there. So, you know, it's something to consider. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't see any other questions quite yet. Any other questions? Any other questions before we move on?
So long as it's not, do I know the rest of Vogue? Because I'm not going to answer
No,
that.
but someone did ask if you knew how to play Beethoven Symphony No. 7 in A major for us. Can you do that?
No.
If you would have said yes, I would have been really impressed. Not that I'm not impressed with you anyway, but I would have been extremely wow. So the answer to that question is no.
I'm not really a classical.
You're a jazz guy.
I'm a jazz guy. I mean, okay, confession time, right? I have conducted a classical orchestra. I conducted Holster Planets for part of my degree course.
Oh, okay.
So we had to pick one work to conduct from start to finish, so that we could pass our conducting classes. And so I did Holster Planets because I've always loved it and didn't realize exactly what a deep end I'd thrown myself into.
Yeah, right.
It's well, the first movement, Mars, is basically shirt ripping because it's so energetic, and your shoulders and your forearms ache.
Yeah, it's like a workout. It's a workout.
It is a workout, but then by the time you get to Neptune, the last movement, it's so easy to get lost because it's a piece of minimalist work.
Right.
So there's like maybe 2-3 different tiny little melodic fragments that hold the whole thing together, and then the rest of it is all to do with kaleidoscopic shifting of tone colors and orchestration and
right.
And so it's so easy to get lost because the whole thing hardly moves. There's no sense of pulse about it, so it's really easy to get lost in the score, which is why I didn't have the score. I did it from memory. Because it was just easier. I couldn't follow the score, so I just sat down and I listened to Leonard Bernstein. Was it Leonard Bernstein conducting it with the New York Philharmonic Orchestra in the 70s? I think he made a record out of it.
I have no
So
clue. That's way out of my way out of my comfort zone. So I couldn't tell you. But yeah, it looks like the chat. There's no other questions. So
cool.
is there anything else you want to show us on this?
I could take all night, but I won't because you've got your plugin to do.
Okay.
So.
Well, cool. Well, everyone go out, check that out because it is cool. Go to the Presonus shop, take a look at it. The sounds are great, and you get 14 gigabytes worth of stuff, so you can't go wrong.
Certainly.
Cool. So if you want to minimize or stop sharing your screen, and then I'll make sure I get the camera right this time. Everyone hold on 1 second, and we'll do the switch. So what I need to do now is I need to go down here. I need to minimize Johnny for a second, and then bring up Studio One. And now you should see Studio One on your screen again, my session this time. And then what I'll do is let me just go over to this one here. And then I'll bring Johnny back up here. And there's Johnny. Cool. All right. So this month, I thought I'd take a look at a plugin that I haven't used in a long time. And this is something that could be good for people that are just kind of starting out or looking for something a little different or want to get sounds fairly quick without having to, mess about. And there's a whole series of these plugins. We're going to look at this maybe first on overheads, but this is happens to be one of a few plugins that come in like a pack. Well, they don't come in a pack. You got to buy them separate. This is the Chris lord-alge series. This happens to be the Chris lord-alge drums. Where basically they have this kind of all-in-one plugin, and we'll walk through this a little bit. I'll show you how it works. They also make a Chris lord-alge one of these for guitars, for vocals, for bass, and I think I have all of them. I think they're in my browser.
Yeah, they've just released the Mixdown, I think it is now.
The Mixdown, yes. I haven't tried that yet. You put it on the mix bus. But yeah, it's this kind of concept. And they also have it for one called Unplugged, which I guess is for more acoustic and percussion and that kind of thing. So anyway, basically what you have here, and right now I'm looking at this on some overheads. I took an overhead left and right. Let me just solo those up. And I just put them onto a bus here over here in purple, as you can all see. And I'll mute my other ones. And I'll just kind of walk you through how this kind of works. Again, this is something that I don't typically use, to be quite honest. I got these a long time ago, probably on one of those crazy Waves sales for like $20, where you get all the plugins. And I used them a few times. I thought they sounded great, but it really didn't fit too much into my workflow. And as I was looking through some things to do for tonight to demonstrate, I saw these back in the browser, and I said I'd like to play with these again. And I have all of them, so I could probably do a whole mix with them as a demonstration at one point, which might be pretty cool. So anyway, this plugin opens up here, and as you can see, you have this dial on here at the top left-hand corner. You have kick, snare, toms, overheads, rooms, and cowbell. So we just put it on overheads because that's what we're doing. I guess you could just click it. Cowbell, which I thought was interesting. You have an input here with this with this slider. Okay. And then we have, excuse me, over here we have kind of an EQ, a bass and treble on the first two faders. We have a compressor here, a reverb here, and a gate here. And at the top here, you turn them. You can switch them they have three different categories of each one. So for bass, you have it in the off position when it's not illuminated, and then when you click, you have sub bass, which will give you kind of the real low frequencies. Again, you don't need to know much about EQ and frequencies to use this plugin, which I hate. It goes against everything. It goes against everything I try to teach. This is like a massive preset plugin. It's kind of what it is, but it's cool, and there's something to be said for it. And if you click it again, you're going to lower, which is probably just raising up the bass frequencies and more of the lower thing, and then you have the upper. Okay, so you have sub, lower, and upper, and then you can turn it off if you didn't want to use the bass at all. Same thing with treble. You have a thing called bite, top, and roof. You can kind of tell by the names what that kind of means as far as frequencies go, or you can turn it off. The compressor, you have a push, a spank, or a wall if you really want to push it, like a parallel compression type of a deal. Or you don't need to use it at all. And then the reverb built in, you have a studio reverb, a club, and a hall, which we can take a listen to, which is kind of neat. And then you have a gate, a soft, and a hard, and we'll shut that off for an overhead. And then you have your output. on this side with some meters. You also have, as all Waves plugins, some presets here that if you're not sure what to do, you could kind of go ahead and pick some of their presets. So for overheads, maybe they have these kind of, Chris lord-alge came up with these kind of standard set of names for all of these plugins, the bass, the vocal ones, all the presets have the same names, Start Me Up, All Top, and all that. It's just kind of his, and you don't really know what that means until you click on it and listen to it, right? So or you can just stay at a full reset and everything goes to 0. So if we play back our overheads, again, I got the left and the right overhead pans, yep, and they're going over to this track. That's all we're listening to. And I'll turn this up a little. So we'll turn up the output here. Now keep in mind, there's no plugins on any of these drums. It's really not mixed. These are raw tracks. Okay, so we'll go over to overheads. Okay, so if we just maybe play with the bass, like the subs. You go plus or minus 10 dB. So as you hit the compressor a little harder and kind of go up to the spank into the wall, so you really want to over compress it. That's before. I'll turn down the plug-in a little. If you want to bring some reverb in. That's before. So again, this is being done on overheads where, nothing else is playing, obviously just the overhead tracks. And it's just a way to kind of dial in a sound that sounds pretty good without having to fuss or muss too much with compressor settings, with EQs and frequencies. These are really good for, for people that just want to kind of, slap something on there quickly, kind of dial in and kind of get it moving, and you can get a fairly good sound pretty quickly. Now, if we use some of these presets, let's see what we got here. I'll cycle through some of these. That's the Start Me Up. I mean, that sounds marginally better. We go through another couple of presets here. All top. So if you didn't want any bass and you wanted more treble and some beef. That sounds pretty good. Bring a little bit of reverb in. That's what we started with. Not bad, right? I mean, for a down and dirty plugin. So we go to like that's before. So it's an interesting plugin. It's an interesting thing. We could take a look at it maybe like on a kick drum, just like a single element of the drum kit and see what that kind of sounds like. Let's just bring up the kick and see what we got here. I'll turn out the volume a little bit so you guys can hear this. Make sure it's not pretty good. Make sure it's not clipping. Okay. So again, here on kick. Okay, if we wanted to just use a couple of the presets, start me up. So you get a little bit more click. You could even use the gate to kind of get rid of some of the bleed. Not bad. I mean, I'm not a big fan of gates. This isn't too bad.
Likewise, but that's nice.
And then if you wanted to bring in a little more low end and compress it a little more. Can bring in a couple other presets here. Bang. Well, there you go. A lot of hall reverb. Oh, wow. That's completely maxed out. Okay. Let's say like a pop high. Okay, so before, that's the raw kick drum. Not bad. I mean, it gets you a fairly quick drum sounds pretty quick. Now, if I bring in the overheads with that, just so we can listen to maybe the kick in the overheads. Where are my overheads? Here we are. And we could even bring it in on the snare if you want to do kick snare overheads. Let's check out the snare. Well, that's the kick sub, not the snare. Well, how about that? That's why it didn't sound right. Okay. So if we go to snare, this is a little hotter. You can see it's pushing on the input side a little much. You can turn that down. Could have been recorded too hot here. And again, we could go to a couple of presets. Snare. You could just dial it in, you know? Something with a little more attack. If you're bringing kick, snare, and the overheads. So that's before, with no plug-in. And here's with the plug-in. Before. After. So, I mean, pretty quickly, you know, without messing around with it too much, you could get a fairly good sound. I mean, you can mess around with this, and again, this is really, I think, geared towards the, you know, the guys or the beginners that really, you know, are having, you know, don't really want to bother too much with learning all the intricacies of compression and EQ, or they're starting to learn that and they're not through that part yet, and they just want to get something, they want to throw something up quick, and they just want something that'll just dial something in and sound decent, and it'll sound good without having to know too much technical ins and outs of other things. And I think that works, you know, pretty well. And again, they make a whole thing of these things. They also make one which for vocals. They make them for I think I have the one for bass as well. Yeah, they have one for bass, which is really nice. Which you can, it's laid out exactly the same. If you have a, so obviously the bass, you don't have the little dial at the top left-hand corner of the screen, but you have bass treble, you have a compressor, you have a sub fader here, you have some distortion if you want to put some grit, and then you can even you could even put the some chorus or some spreadening on it. So you can turn that off and. Sub works really nice on this.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
If you want some growl or some real ripping distorted kind of a tone. That's before. After. So it seems to me that the bass, you can be a little bit more effective with it. It sounds to me a lot better with this than the drums. You have to tweak a little more. You got to play with that a little bit more. But this seems like this is almost, you put it on and in 10 seconds you have a bass sound that's usable. Without having, and they're all laid out exactly the same, so that once you know one plugin, that you know them all. And those are kind of the plugins I wanted to show. Again, this is the CLA series. It's not a pack. I don't believe it's a pack you buy as a bundle. You buy them as separate plugins, and they're not very expensive from what I remember. If I remember right, these were somewhere around the $50 to $79 range, typically. And then when they put them on sale, like with all their plugins, you could buy them for $25. The bass one is really good. The vocal one isn't bad either. And I believe they have a guitar one as well. I have the unplugged, but they also have one, I think, for like electric guitars, if I remember right. So I think there's 4 of them. And then, Johnny, you're right. They have a new one called Mixdown, which is the same kind of a thing that you put on the mix bus. You know, to kind of get the Chris lord-alge kind of mix bus kind of settings that he uses. I haven't tried that yet, but I've heard some good things about it. But this was all developed with Chris Lord-Alge to kind of, him to help shape these presets to make them sound and use some of the things that he does in his mixes. So that's kind of what what I wanted to show this week. I don't know if anyone has any questions in the chat as far as these plugins go. Again, I use them a little bit. I'm not overly familiar with them. But I think what I'm going to do maybe for YouTube at one point is I'll do an entire mix and just use these.
No, that would be cool.
That would be fun to see, how can we do, what can we get something to sound like, and how good can we get it to sound? But these are pretty cool. It's a pretty interesting plugin, I think.
Yeah, it really is. And the fact that you can dial in a reasonably solid drum sound in maybe 5-6 minutes is fairly impressive.
Yeah, this is also good for demos too. I think. Say you're just writing a song, you're working with your band, like you're writing some parts to a song, and you just want to shoot it off to someone so they can get an idea of what, like as a writing tool, and you don't want to sit around and spend an hour trying to make it really sound great because it's not a finished product. You're just trying to enhance what you have to kind of pass it off to someone to maybe then add their parts to it. It's not a finished product. I think these would be excellent for that. But they're intended to be used in mixing, and I get it. And I'm sure if you play around with these enough, you can get them to sound really, really good. I thought the bass came out pretty good.
Yeah, the bass one I really like.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean that's before. I think that sounds pretty darn good for just moving around a couple of faders. Not bad at all. It gets you in the ballpark to where you want to go, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So that was kind of my demonstration this month. The C Chris Lord-Alge kind of all-in-one plugins. Bass amp. This is called Chris Lord-Alge Bass, and then there's Chris Lord-Alge Drums as well, which I thought was pretty neat. So if anybody has any questions, we can certainly do that. Let me get Johnny back on the screen here.
Yeah, Truckee Kruger is asking, can you check the latency and performance monitor for the plugin?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let me just expand Johnny here, and then I'll go back to Studio One for a second, and then I'll go back to the other camera this time around. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you want to check the performance monitor? Yeah, sure, absolutely. So let me. We got 3 instances of this thing kind of running. Where's my performance monitor? Here it is. About 8%. There's really no other plugins. Let me just see, make sure there's no other plugins on this. I don't think there is. Couple on the mix. Well, I'll shut them off. Couple on the mix bus, like just a couple of reference, things. But let's see. If I were to take this plugin and let's say just spread it. Let me just save this in case it crashes. Let me spread this across a few of the tracks and just see what we get. Just to see, I know it's not going to sound right because now I'm just dropping these on the tracks. I understand that. I get that. Let me just remove this one. Oh, what did I do there? Command Z. Will that work? Yes, it will. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, so if I were to do that, let's just see what happens to the performance monitor here. Okay, so it's about 20% sitting idle. Putting, what do I got? 6, 8, 9 instances, 10 instances, 11 instances of this, and we're running at 19%. So figure it's 20% for every 10 of these things that you put on. But again, I have a real high-end, a real high-powered computer. So they're not real heavy CPU intense, but they are but they will tax your CPU a little bit. If you got a massive session, maybe this is not, you may have to be careful about that. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, you may have to do some printing.
Yeah, you're right. You may have to do a little bit of printing, which you can always do. Again, all of that stuff, when you talk about latency and you talk about CPU, it has everything to do with your let me get Johnny back. It has everything to do with your computer. And what you have there. It has everything to do with that. Skype, and there is Johnny once again. So yeah, hello. So that was cool.
Frank J says, I've struggled with getting bass to sound good. I like the CLA bass plugin. What plugins would you recommend that are better?
than the CLA bass.
Mm-hmm.
As an all-in-one plugin like that, I don't know of any. Bass. I don't know of any other plugins that are like that where it has all of that stuff wrapped into one thing. So I don't know. I don't know of any. There's presets you can use on just about any plugin, but because that has an EQ, a compressor, a distortion pedal, or distortion of some kind, and some reverb, all built into one plugin, the only other thing I could think of that would be close to that, minus the reverb, is like some kind of a channel strip. If you use a channel strip plugin, you're going to have an EQ, a compressor, and you're going to have gates and those kinds of things. But you're not going to have a distortion box, so to speak. Usually you would get the distortion on the bass from pushing the console a little bit harder. That will give you that some more grit on the bass, distortion on the bass, but you don't have the reverb. But yeah, I think for bass, I think that thing sounds really nice on bass.
Yeah, I agree. I would get that just for doing my for my session work, online session work. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's really good.
Truckee is saying, click on show devices in the performance monitor to show latency for that particular plugin.
Okay, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't have a. It's not a big. It's not gonna cause you a ton of latency. It's not gonna cause you any really. It's not. You're not recording through it like a plugin on the way in. So you don't. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be something that's gonna really give you a latency issue. You don't need to worry about that. It's more or less how much CPUs are going to take up, and that's all going to depend on your computer and how many instances obviously you put on it.
Yep.
Any other question? Oh yeah, Frank is saying a CLA bass is $29 right now on Waves. There you go, $29. That's what I paid for it. So it's probably about half price. So if you like that, go check it out. And again, like you said, you can demo the other ones. You could demo like the vocals or the drums or the guitars, which is pretty cool. So it's a cool little plugin. And honestly, I might check out the Mixdown one. I'm just curious to see, how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike in the chat is saying that the JJ Puig, the Eddie Kramer, the Tony Maserati have bundles that are similar to these. Yes, they do. So the Eddie Kramer has a bundle package of things that do things that are similar, where like he'll have like a guitar plugin, and that guitar plugin will have a lot of the same things. It'll have a compressor and EQ, a reverb maybe of some kind, on guitars probably delay as well, all in one plugin. And so does Tony Maserati, and so does Jack Joseph Puig. So it is an interesting concept. Like I said, I don't use them a whole lot. I'm more of a separate EQ compression guy, but again, for someone who's new, or for someone mentioned in the chat, for like, kids getting started into this and they don't want to go through the frustration and, it gets too overwhelming. This is a good way to drop it in there, throw a couple of faders up, pick a preset, and you have something that sounds pretty reasonable, in a pretty quick manner without having to know anything about audio engineering, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely there.
Any other questions about anything, or anything in general about these plugins, about Johnny's VST bundle pack, or this plugin that I showed, or any questions in general? I know we've been on here about a little over an hour, and I know we want to wrap up a little early, so because Johnny's got another show to do right after this show. Let's see. Trucky's saying the problem he's had with the CLA plugins is the latency that they add is about 4 milliseconds per instance. Yeah, I haven't had those issues with that with any of the CLA stuff, but that's just me. And I use a lot of his CLA, the CLA 76 and the CLA 3A, and I think I have all the CLA stuff except for the Mixdown one I don't have yet.
The CLA compressors are still on sale, I think, at Waves.
Yeah, well, like I said, and also again, go demo them. You have 14 days to demo them and check them out on your system and see how they perform. That'll tell you right then and there. The Wave stuff, though, for the most part, are pretty good as far as latency goes, and as far as CPU. They're not real big CPU hogs like some other companies are with their plugins. Robert says, Dave, you demoed the Waves NLS, so I bought it for $29. I love the EMI. Yes, the Waves NLS, the non-linear summing, which is the competitor to the VCC, is a great plugin. That models or emulates 3 consoles, a Neve, an SSL, and the EMI TG12345, which myself as well, Robert. That's why I bought that plugin, for that console alone. Yeah, it's part of the Abbey Road thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that plugin for the Neve and for the SSL. I like the Slate a lot better. To me, it's a lot better than the NLS, in my opinion. But the Slate doesn't give you that TG12345, and that is an awesome sounding console on that Waves plugin. So if you're looking to do some console emulation and you don't have the Slate stuff, let's say, and you want an alternative, the Waves NLS is really good. And also, yeah, they're the only other ones I think that make a true console emulation, as far as I know. I mean, those are the 2 big ones. There may be some offshoot company that I'm not aware of. But yeah, Robert, I'm glad you like that. That's a great plugin. And for $29, I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, you really can't. I mean, I've been putting on my Facebook page every so often. I'll see Waves. They'll send a notification that, you know, they had the Pultecs on sale for $29. They had the tape machines on sale for $39. And you know, and I keep putting on my Facebook page telling people, if you want to get into these analog vintage plugins and you don't want to buy the Slate for whatever reason, you don't want to pay the money for the subscription, or if you don't want to invest in Universal Audio, the Wave stuff is really great. And at those prices, you can't beat it. I mean, you really can't. $29, you can't go wrong, you know, for $29. So it's a good way to get into it. So yeah, that's a great console. And the Abbey Road collection in general, by Waves, I think is really good, which includes, they have an Abbey Road bundle, which I believe includes the TG12345 channel strip, which you can also buy separately, by the way. Robert, if you want to pair that up with the NLS, that TG12345 channel strip is amazing. And then you also get, if you buy the bundle, the red consoles that I demoed a couple of months ago on this show. And you also get the, I think it's the J37 tape machine, which is a really good plugin as well. And there's something else in there, and it's escaping me what it is. But that's part of the Abbey Road collection. And that's a great bundle. A great bundle to get if you're so inclined to spend a couple of bucks. I think the whole bundle is probably a few $100, but you get like 5 plugins, 6 plugins. Someone could look it up on Waves and tell me what it is. But yeah, it's a great, if you like that old Abbey Road, you know, sound, the Beatle-esque and the Pink Floyd-esque type sounds, those are the plugins to have. Oh, and I think it also includes the Helios console, maybe. It's part of the Kramer stuff, I think. Let's see. Brandon wants to know, what is a good stereo imaging third-party plugin for the money? I mean, do you mean to use on like the master buses, like a stereo widener, that kind of a thing? If that's what you mean, the only one that I know of that's any good, and it's being made by Universal Audio, it's called the Case Stereo. Yeah, Case Stereo. It's made by Bob Cat, or was in working with Bob Katz, the famous mastering engineer. They call it an ambient recovery plugin. So it's not really a stereo widener, but it gives you the illusion of a stereo widener, and it's very subtle. And I use it on a lot of mixes because it gives it just that little bit of something that kind of pushes, especially if you're doing like rock stuff where big electric guitars are typically panned hard left, hard right. This or acoustic guitars as well. This kind of lifts it up and kind of gives a little more space, like a stereo widener, but it's not really that. I've used stereo wideners and stuff in the past, and I don't have a lot of luck with them because you got to be really subtle with it. And because if you get a little too crazy, it sounds like you put a stereo widener on it and it gets really phasey. And the only thing you got to be careful of too, is when that thing is now played in a mono source.
It could collapse.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want to be careful with that. So, I don't know of any one third-party plugin that I would recommend unless you have Universal Audio, and then I would recommend the Precision. It's called the Precision Case Stereo, is what it is. Let's see. Let's see. So, oh, Doug Lyon says Audio Deluxe is selling the CLA bass. Oh, for the month of August for $24.89. Okay. Oh, Audio Deluxe, right, Doug? Yes. So Audio Deluxe is selling it a little bit cheaper than the Waves website, and typically that'll happen. The only thing you want to be careful of, if you're going to buy more than one plugin, like say from Waves when they put them all on sale, buy them from Waves, because when you buy your third plugin, I think they give you even a larger discount, which you won't get from Audio Deluxe.
Yep.
Right, Johnny? But if you're just going to buy a single plugin, typically audiodeluxe.com will have better prices than most people. And so that at least that's my experience.
Yeah, I got the SSLE channel cheaper from Audio Deluxe, and I got it from Waves.
Yeah, you can get it considerably cheaper, and then sometimes they'll even have a coupon in Audio Deluxe that'll knock the price down even further, which is great.
Yes, exactly what happened to me, because it was retailing at, I think, £25, and I managed it for 15. So it's just
there you go. Yeah. Robert said he also saw the Plugin Alliance came out with their new console plugin yesterday. Yes, I showed that a little bit. That's the SSL e-console Plugin Alliance with Brainworks. So now they have two, and I know they're coming out with more. They have the Neve 88RS, which is called the BX console, BX or BX console. I don't remember the exact order. And then they have the BX, the console E, which is the SSL. And I have that, and I've played with that, and it's good. It's really good. That's something to check out too. Again, and I think that, I don't know what they're selling it for now, but I know their regular price is going to be probably between $250 and $300, but they probably will put it on sale because it just came out, so you may want to snatch it up if you're looking for an SSL channel strip. What I like about that one, much like the Universal Audio one, is they did model the input and output sections of that channel strip. So you could get the nice color on the preamp on the way in as you push that console, which is very similar to the sound of the Universal Audio. The other thing I like about the Plugin Alliance, excuse me, is they didn't just model one channel and that's the plugin. I believe they modeled on the SSL 72 channels of a console, and each one of those is in the menu. So if you put it on, kick, snare, toms, you could put the first instance and have channel 1 modeled, then on the snare track have channel 2 modeled, and on the toms have channel 3 modeled. And each one of those channels is going to sound a little bit different from each other. So it gives it a little bit more of an authentic kind of a thing. And again, those changes are subtle. Trust me, they're not. And some you don't even hear the difference. And then others are slightly different. And we did that a couple of weeks ago, right, Johnny? We were showing that plugin. I put it on a drum bus and I cycled through the channels, and you can hear the difference between a lot of these channels. So it does work. It's very cool.
The only thing I didn't quite get from that is whether they've modeled the the crosstalk and the the noise of each of the channels as well.
Right. So again, it gives you more of that authentic thing of what consoles do. Doug is saying, for a very inexpensive, specific purpose plugins, I like the very easy to use plugin mix, which are now $10 each. Yeah, plugin mix makes some good plugins. I use a few of them. The one I like the most is what we did on I think the first or second plugin show, the Clarisonic.
Yeah.
Which is a killer. It's like instant kick drum sounds. I mean, you can use it on snare and bass too, but I use it on kick drums all the time. It's like if the kick sounds a little thin, it doesn't have a punch, you put this on, pick a preset, kick drum 1, and it just sounds like a great kick drum. There's no messing around. There's 3 knobs on it. It's really simple. So yeah, Plugin Mix has got some good stuff. And then other stuff I've used by them I wasn't happy with. One being their stereo widener. They have one called the stereolyzer, I think they call it, and I don't like it. But they have a whole, I think you can, for $100, I think you can get all 100 of the plugins or whatever they got. They got some big VIP package, which is like a ton of plugins for like $100. And in there, they probably got 5 or 8 of them that I think are really good. So even for $100 for like 8 really good plugins, that's not too bad, Randall's here. Hey, Randall, how are you? He says, howdy. He says he's loving your My Chanel track, Johnny. Oh, he must
Thank
be talking about Learning to Mix. You're a member of Learning to Mix. I know he is. So, yeah, so you're mixing My Chanel, and hopefully you're posting it on the Facebook page over there. We've gotten some mixes already posted up there, and the few mixes that I have heard as of yesterday were very good. So that was cool. So, yeah, so we're in the middle of our Learning to Mix for month 1. We're in the middle of mixing Johnny's My Chanel, and people are starting to send their mixes through. So it's kind of cool. So
I'm starting to make my way through the mixes as they get posted up, and yeah, they're all very different,
yeah,
and
they
they're
are.
all very good. You know, the standard is really good.
Yeah, it is. They all are. The ones I've heard are slightly different from each other, and not in a bad way, just different. But again, part of what I really enjoy about this community that we're developing is I'm interested to hear other people's take on it, you know? And I know for you as the artist, that must even more so probably for you, because you kind of already have a preconceived notion of what you wanted that song to sound like, or what you thought that song should sound like. And now you get to hear, I think at this point, you'll hear probably close to 100 mixes by the time it's all said and done of that same song.
Yeah,
And that's
I'm
cool.
actually, yeah, I'm really excited about being able to hear all however many it is, 100 or whatever mixes, because I'm going to get 100 people's different take on it, and that's I mean, already it's been really terrifically educational for me. Richard Decker says the original mix is hard to beat, which is very kind.
Yeah,
But
the original mix was really good. I mean, it wasn't about, for me, it wasn't about beating the mix when I was doing my mix of it. It was more about just I heard it a little bit different than Johnny did. The mix on its own was, I mean, it was a final record. It was a good mix anyway. And so I think what we're going to find is there's not about whether there was a good or bad mix. It was about all the mixes were good. It's just that,
yeah,
creatively, what did people think they should do with it? And that's the thing that we'll get to learn from each other. So that was really cool. Yeah. So Richard, I'm glad you're over there too, and that you're checking out that mix. That's awesome. And for you that don't know, learningtomix.com, if you want to know what we're talking about, go on over there and check it out. You'll have an amazing amount of fun. It's already so fun. It's
already fantastic.
yeah, we're already in the private group, and people are talking and chatting and getting to know each other and networking and sharing things. And we've only been doing it a week. So can you imagine what it's going to be like in 6 months? So it's awesome. Let's see. Doug says, Dave, Abbey Road also has a plate reverb. Oh yeah, they do.
Yes.
Oh, which one is it? It's, you're right, Doug. I don't know which one it is, because I didn't buy the Abbey Road collection. I went and bought all the plugins that I liked out of it separately, and I don't think I got the reverb, because I have so many other reverbs. But yeah, the Abbey Road collection is really cool.
I'd like to see, the Abbey Road plates go up against the Presonus Convology pack that you can get for the Impulse reverb.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard those yet. Reverbs and delays, I'm sure the Presonus ones are really good. Typically, in my experience, stock reverbs and delays are where the weakest. If you had to look at stock plugins and say which ones are the ones you can live with and which ones are the ones that you really ought to replace, and for me personally, it's always reverbs and delays. More reverbs than delays, but certainly reverbs. And yeah.
My personal thing is I'm not a huge fan of reverb in general. There are lots of I just like relatively natural dry sounds. It's just it's just the way I was brought up, I think.
Yeah.
Musically, it's just the way I was brought up, and so I'm not a huge fan of reverbs, but the Convology plate ones I've got, and the plates are just spectacular.
Yeah,
they really are.
And the plates are the hardest ones to get ones to sound good, right? I mean, the plate is usually the hardest one to get it right, so it sounds really good.
Yeah, and these really do sound fantastic.
Yeah, Frank is saying that the slate reverb is awesome. I was going to say that too. I usually up until the one Frank is talking about, the Verb Suites Classic. Before that came out, the only reverbs I would use would be Universal Audio reverbs, because I just think to my ear they sound better than anything else on the market. Until I heard that reverb, and that Verb Suites Classic is so good. And what I really love about it is you can use it on, they have really good presets, and everything I've tried with it, I haven't found a bad setting yet, which is strange for reverbs, especially presets. They did a really good job on Verb Suite's Classic. So if you're not a Slate person, go check out their everything bundle, for the $14 a month, or you can pay all at once for a whole year and get it for like $12 a month or something. I mean, they got fantastic plugins. I mean, that reverb plugin alone is worth, the $14 a month. Because a good reverb and a third-party plugin is anywhere between $200 and $300 just for one plugin.
Easy.
So that's really worth it. Richard says, trying to use Ocean Waves, Johnny. It doesn't sound like reverb, but when you bypass, yes. Oh, the Ocean Waves plugin, Richard, as Richard's mentioning, is a Universal Audio plugin. Love that plugin. That's a $400 plugin, or $350. But what it is it's not a reverb. They modeled or emulated the actual Ocean Waves studios, the rooms.
Yeah.
Studio A, Studio B. And Richard is exactly right. Is that it's one of those things where you don't really hear it, you feel it, and you don't even know it's there until I take it away. And I love it on drums, because sometimes with reverb with drums it sounds too washy, and if you're not going for that 80s rock thing, you just want a nice natural drum sound, room sound. The Ocean Waves that's a hard plugin to beat. Although I will say the Verb Suite's Classic, they have a preset called Warm Drum Space, which sounds very, very close to the Ocean Way. If you just give it a little bit and you don't even really hear it. And then if you pull it away, you instantly feel the drums go flat.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I really want from a reverb. Something that more felt than heard.
Right, and that's where usually the better reverbs are usually better for that. When you use like Reverb Room or whatever they call it in Studio One, again, it's not a dig against Studio One. The Avid ones are crappy too, I think. It sounds okay, but it sounds like reverb. It sounds like you put a reverb on the track. These plugins don't sound like that. They sound very, very natural. So yeah, Richard, I absolutely agree. That is an amazing plugin, Ocean Waves. Ocean Waves is a great plugin if you have Universal Audio.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have to have Universal Audio and all the rigmarole that goes with that, don't you?
You do. You have to have the hardware, either a satellite system or an interface. And Ocean Way doesn't come as part of the bundle pack. You got to buy it, and that's, like I said, I think regular price is $350 or $399. On sale price is around $249 or $200. Yep. It's expensive. It is, but there's nothing on the market that sounds like that. So if you want that thing, that's where you get it. And so, again, and that's why I don't show too many UA stuff on these plugin shows, because I know most people don't have the hardware. But again, like I said, if you're looking, depending on where you are in your studio, if you're looking for an investment, the Universal Audio system, I call it really is a system, is an investment. It is, but it's an investment that if you spread it out over time, over 4 years, 5 years that you're going to be doing that, the cost is really, when you spread it out, it's not as bad as it seems. Plus, to go back to someone's question earlier in the chat, you don't have to worry about CPU or latency problems.
Full DSP. Yeah,
all those problems go away. So that's really the power of it, especially when you're doing things like channel strip processing, where you want to put 25 channel strips in your session. If I do it with a Universal Audio channel strip, it doesn't affect my computer one bit. Now, it does chew up the DSP as part of their hardware. So, the Universal Audio is a scalable system. You can start with a bare bones minimum amount of investment, and you can still use, probably 10, 12 plugins throughout your mix, which is still not bad. And then you can daisy chain the hardware together. So it could be scalable over time. So it can grow with you, or it can just stay small. You don't have to go spend $4,000. You can spend $4,000 or $5,000 and really get a high powered system, or you can spend $400 or $500 and get the one unit. And the one unit comes with, I think, a set of classic plugins, the 1176s, LA2As, Fairchild's, Pultex. So for $500, you can get those 4 plugins, which are the 4 mainstays of compressors, and you get yourself a little unit. So it all depends on what your needs are. but it's not as expensive as one may think. It can be, but
Yeah.
it's not as expensive as one may think to get in. Let's see. Movie Kid says, not all the issues go away with the UAD. What issues do you have with it? I don't have any issues with it, but I guess that's just my system. Richard says he thinks the DSP is a disadvantage in some situations. If you want SSLs on your whole mix, for example. Well, it all depends on how big of a system you have. Okay, so if it all depends on how big of a system you have. If you have an entry-level Universal Audio system, a $400 or $500 system, you're not going to be able to put 30 channel strips on your setup. You're not. If you don't have a pretty newer computer, you're not going to be able to put that new SSL by Brainworks on 30 tracks either. Depends on your computer. So it depends on what you're doing. It really does. You know, it all depends what you're doing. Let's see. Movie Kid says, oh yeah, okay, I'm on the right spot. We have several UAD systems, but we are loving the native sound, so we are constantly portable. Well, that makes sense. You know, the UA system, you'd have to unplug the hardware and take it with you if you were going to be mobile. That's certainly true. That's certainly true. We don't want to be walking around with satellites. Yeah, the satellites means Movie Kid means the satellite system that plugs into your computer, FireWire, Thunderbolt, USB. Yeah, right. So it's like the size of I don't know. It's like a Mac Mini, maybe a little bit smaller than a Mac Mini. So that's kind of the satellite. And so you'd have to do that. If you're using a laptop, I think they have something that just kind of slides into the side of the laptop. But there is a piece of hardware that has to come along with you. There's no doubt about that. So it all depends on what your needs are, right? It all depends. Universal Audio has enough solutions to cover most needs, but there is something that has to come with you if you're going to be mobile. That is absolutely true. Let's see. Let's see. Any other questions? Movie Kid says he sounds good, but sometimes they notice the plugins don't sound that well with Pro Tools. I don't know. Yeah, I take your word for that. I don't know because I don't use Pro Tools anymore. But when I did, I never had an issue with it. He says he likes that they're cool. We love them for tracking when we use the Apollo 8 and Twin. So if they're using Universal Audio interfaces, you can track through the plugins like you can with the Studio 192. Yeah, they're great for that. They're great for that. Richard says, we almost need an Octo not to worry about DSP power. My satellite can't keep up with my needs. Richard, yeah, again, the Octo being the largest of the satellite systems, you're right. Just so you know, I have 2 Octos and 2 Quads. Okay, and I have a massive UA system. Now, I've had it for, a lot of years. I didn't buy that all at once. I grew with it. And I can put anything. Unless you're talking about 100 tracks or something, then I can't put it on everything. But I've never run out of DSP power on a Universal Audio system, but I have a much larger system. The only place that I feel like you would have an issue is you wanted to do channel strip stuff. That's where you're going to chew up most of the DSP. But if you're just using, the compressors and the EQs, unless you're putting them on every single track, which I don't typically do, you don't normally have an issue. So again, it all depends on what you want your what your needs are. And again, not to mention, I just feel like, again, this is only my opinion. Universal Audio doesn't give me anything to say this because they don't even know who I am. I think they have in the big package, they have the best sounding plugins on the market in my mind. If you look at all their compressors, all their EQs, and you can go plug-in for plug-in. I think there's very few of their plugins where I can listen to the competitor's plugin and go, it sounds better. The only one that I said that I can say that with pretty comfortably on some things is that new Verb Suites Classic by Slate. That reverb Slate put out is really, really good. Really good. But Johnny and we compared the Universal Audio Pultecs and the 1176s and the LA2As, and the ones we compared them to sounded okay. There was nothing wrong with them, but I think we all agreed, even you did, Johnny, that the UAs had a little more depth
Yeah.
They're a little bit more rich sounding. To me, they're better plugins. And I've been using them for 12, 10, whatever, however long, since the mid 2000s. So I've been using them for a long time. So it's just, I'm a little biased because I'm so used to them. But as you guys know, I mean, I also have a lot of other plugins that I show you because I know not everyone can make that kind of an investment. I totally understand that.
Yeah, the Universal Audio plugins, they're outstandingly rich and detailed in what you get back from all of them. You know, the compressors, the EQs, they're outstanding. And
Yeah.
you know, for the price you pay, and you know, to get the DSP as well, you know, they better bloody be worth it. Seriously.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are. I mean, yeah. They couldn't charge and command that kind of money and still be in business if they weren't any good.
Exactly. So they've got to be top of the tree, and I think they probably are.
They are, and they have they don't have a lot of plugins, but the ones they have are great. Kind of like Slate. They don't have a massive catalog, but the ones they make are really good.
Which is probably the best way to go. You know.
Yeah, they are. They are really good. You talked to. Oh yeah, Movie Kid says he was late to the conversation. Wanted to know if we took a look at the new Brainworks channel strips and what we thought of them. Yes, we did. I looked at the SSL. I haven't put it side by side with the UA, but the SSL Brainworks sounds good. The Neve 88RS, I have compared that to the UA1, and the UA1's better, in my opinion. But the Brainworks sounds good. It does sound good, but it doesn't sound as good to my ears as the Universal Audio one. That's just my opinion. Let's see. What else? Brandon says, yes, agreed. The Verb Suite is great by Slate. Slate is good stuff. Let's see. UAD Unison, can you tell the experience? Not sure what that means. The Unison UAD Unison technology. Can you tell your experience and if it's worth to buy an Apollo? Oh, okay. It is. I don't do a lot of tracking these days, so I have used the Unison technology, which is like with the Studio 192. For people who don't know, you could record through the plugins. The thing that Studio One came out with the 192 a couple of years ago, that was a copy of what was done 2 years earlier by the Apollo.
Pretty much.
Same exact concept. You could record through a Neve. You could record through an SSL. That was the big pitch. And it sounds great. The Universal Audio interfaces in general, the preamps are really good. You know, I think that if you're into recording through the plugins, I think it's great. I've done it, not a lot, and the results were good. But is that any different than, or is it any better than just putting on the plugin after the fact in the mix? Well, that's a matter of opinion. That's subjective. But I did do it, and I did like it, and the results were cool. So it is. If you wanted to buy an Apollo. Let's see. Yes, Movie Kid saying it would be a good portable solution. Then yes, because if you had an interface and you had to take your interface on the road, in the interface you're going to have the DSP chip, you're going to have the plugins, you can record through them, and then you can use the plugins at mixing, just like you can with the Studio 192. I think for people that are not familiar with the Universal Audio Apollo, if you guys are more familiar with the 192 technology and the way that works, it is almost identical. The only difference is the Studio 192, you can do all of that stuff, but only through stock plugins. But the way it all works is exactly the same, and it works really well. It really does. You know, so I've had both, and I've used them both, and they're both great. I think the Studio 192 preamp wise and all that is equal as the Apollo in my mind, to my ear. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure somebody would swear that one's better than another. I had them both in my studio, and I've compared them both, and to me, they sound the same. To me, the preamps do. So they're both very good interfaces.
Yes, they are.
No, Movie Kid. The Studio 192, you can't use third-party plugins to record through. At least not yet. Maybe that's a new thing coming. If there is a way to do that, they should do that, because that would make that thing kind of stand out.
Not be surprised if that's not already a feature request.
Oh, I'm sure. I know I put that feature. As soon as I saw the 192, the first question I asked was, can you record through Waves plugins? That was my very first question. They said not yet. I said, okay, put that in as a future request. But that's cool. So we've been on here an hour and 40 minutes, and we have 25 people still here. So that's great. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. We're going to wrap it up because I know Johnny's got to go do another show, and I want to save his voice for him. So thanks so much for joining us for that plug-in show. Make sure you go as soon as don't even leave your computer. Just go get a cup of tea and then come back and go watch Johnny on his channel. Make sure you check him out at Johnny lipchamstudios.uk.co.uk. Is that right?
Yeah, .uk. Yeah.
.co.uk.
We'll be on my YouTube channel. I don't think I posted in the chat. If I post something in the chat, what you can do is next to what I post, I'm just going to say hello.
Say hello and then click the link, and then you guys will go right out to Johnny's channel.
Yeah, if you just click the three little dots where I've posted, and you should have something that says go to channel or something like that, and you just click that, and it should take you straight to my YouTube channel.
Excellent.
And pretty much, I'm going to take a little tea break. I need to take some meds because I'm still not 100% fit. And
then you'll be back.
I'm about 85% fit, so I need to take some meds, and I need to get another one of these, another cup of tea, and then I'll be on air.
All right, so we will see you guys all next time. Be sure to check out homerecordingmadeeasy.com and learningtomix.com, and check out Johnny in a few minutes, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.
See you later, folks.
Bye. Are we done streaming?